In 1900, a group of sponge divers sheltering from a storm near a small Greek island decided to dive. They had dived these waters before. They knew what to expect. What they found was a Roman cargo ship, 2,000 years old, sitting on the seafloor at 45 meters. The ship was full of treasure, marble statues, bronze figures, glassware, jewelry, coins. Archaeologists spent months pulling it all up. Among everything else, someone brought up a lump of corroded bronze, the size of a shoebox. Unremarkable. It was placed in a crate with other fragments and shipped to Athens. It sat in a museum storage room for 2 years before anyone looked at it properly. When they did, a piece broke off. Inside, they found gears. Dozens of interlocking bronze gears, impossibly fine, impossibly precise. Nobody knew what they were looking at, and for the next 50 years, almost nobody tried to find out. The object is called the Antikythera Mechanism, named for the island near which it was found. It is approximately the size of a shoebox. It was originally housed in a wooden case. The wood rotted away over 2 millennia underwater, but the bronze survived. 30 gear wheels are visible in the fragments that remain. Researchers believe the original contained at least 37, possibly more. The gears are not crude, they are not approximate. They are cut to a precision that, when researchers first measured them in the 20th century, seemed impossible for the ancient world. The teeth are triangular, a design found nowhere else in any ancient artifact. No other object from antiquity has teeth like these. On the surface of the mechanism, there are dials, and around the dials, inscriptions, instructions, a manual written in Greek explaining what each dial does and how to read it. The mechanism predicted the position of the sun, the position of the moon, the phases of the moon, solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, the positions of at least 5 planets. It tracked 2 different calendar systems simultaneously. It predicted the timing of the Olympic Games. It was, in every meaningful sense of the word, a computer, built approximately 100 years before the birth of Christ. When the mechanism was first examined in 1902, the scholar who studied it concluded that it was some kind of navigational instrument. Simple, functional, not particularly interesting. Then the fragment sat. In the 1950s, a historian of science named Derek de Solla Price became obsessed with the object. He spent 2 decades studying it. He used X-rays to see inside the corroded fragments. He published his findings in 1974, a 70-page paper that upended everything scholars thought they knew about ancient technology. His conclusion was simple and devastating. The ancient Greeks had built a computer, a mechanical calculator of extraordinary sophistication. And the scholarly world had spent 50 years ignoring it because the conclusion was too uncomfortable to accept. Some scholars, faced with Price's evidence, found a different explanation. The mechanism, they argued, was too sophisticated to have been made in the 1st century BC. Therefore, it must have been made later. It must have been placed on the ship by accident, a later object that somehow ended up among the wreckage of an ancient vessel. The timeline was wrong. The technology was impossible. The simpler explanation, they decided, was that the evidence was mistaken. They were wrong. But it took another 50 years to prove it. We know from ancient texts that devices like this existed. The Roman writer Cicero, writing in the 1st century BC, describes a mechanism built by Archimedes that modeled the movements of the sun, moon, and planets. He describes holding it in his hands, being astonished by it. Archimedes lived in the 3rd century BC, 200 years before the Antikythera Mechanism was made, which means the technology that produced it was not new. It was part of a tradition, a lineage of knowledge passed from master to student, generation to generation, across centuries. And then it stopped. Somewhere between the 1st century BC and the 14th century AD, when the first European mechanical clocks appeared, this entire tradition of knowledge vanished. Not gradually, not slowly, it simply disappeared. The next device of comparable complexity didn't appear for over 1,000 years. We don't know why. We don't know where the knowledge went. We don't know if it was lost in a fire or a war, or simply forgotten because there was no one left who understood it. In April 2025, 2 engineers at a university in Argentina published a paper. They had built a simulation of the Antikythera Mechanism, a precise digital model based on the measurements of the surviving fragments. Their question was simple: did it actually work? Their answer was careful, qualified, and deeply unsettling. The manufacturing errors in the surviving gears, they concluded, were too large. The tolerances were too imprecise. If you built the mechanism exactly as the fragments suggest it was built, with exactly those gear ratios, exactly those tooth profiles, exactly those spacings, the gears would jam. The mechanism would not run smoothly. It might not run at all. There are caveats. The fragments have been underwater for 2,000 years. The bronze has corroded and deformed. The measurements we have are of a damaged object, not the original. But the paper raises a question that has not gone away. What if the most sophisticated object from the ancient world was a prototype that never quite worked? What if it was a vision of something, an idea made physical, that its make anew was not yet perfect? What if they built it anyway? On the back of the mechanism, there is an inscription, a long one. Scholars have been studying it for over a century. Most of it has been translated. The instructions are clear. The calendar systems are explained. The astronomical cycles are described in careful detail. But there is a section on the back cover in the lower registers that remains incomplete. The bronze is too corroded. The letters are too damaged. The meaning is disputed. A lecture series at the Max Planck Institute for the History of Science in 2025 focused specifically on these unread sections. New imaging techniques, new analysis, new attempts. The inscription is still not fully read. We have held this object for over 100 years. We have X-rayed it, scanned it, simulated it, rebuilt it. We have published thousands of pages about it. We have built full-scale replicas. One in Mexico, completed in 2024, stands 3 meters tall. And there are still words on it that we cannot read. The Antikythera Mechanism sits today in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. 82 fragments behind glass in a room that draws visitors from every country in the world. It is the only object of its kind ever found. In 2,000 years of archaeology, in shipwrecks and ruins and tombs across the entire ancient world, nothing else like it has ever been discovered. Not a fragment, not a gear, not a single tooth that might have come from a comparable device. Either the Antikythera Mechanism was unique, a single extraordinary object, made once, lost once, found once, or there were others, and they are gone so completely that nothing remains. There is a third possibility, that there were others, that the tradition continued somewhere, in someone's workshop, in someone's hands, passed quietly from teacher to student across the centuries, while the rest of the world forgot it was possible. That somewhere, in a room we haven't found yet, something is waiting. The way things wait when they have been kept.